Have you guys ever heard of this little film called The Thief and the Cobbler? Well, actually, it's far from a little film. A 2D animated film that was animated on wands, was stuck in production hell for 31 years, and was caught in hot water with Disney. The Thief and the Cobbler is now one of my favourite films. Hello, my name is Dylan, and what the hell am I talking about? See, just recently I animated this short series of expressions of the main character of The Thief and the Cobbler, and I wanted to talk about what led up to me animating this. I also wanted to show my animation process, and explain this film because everything surrounding this movie is absolutely brilliant. The Thief and the Cobbler is the brainchild of animator Richard Williams. After quitting painting in his early part of his artistic career, Williams created his first animated short film called The Little Island in 1958, which then kickstarted his animation career. After doing animation work for lots of commercials, in 1965, author Idries Shah and Richard Williams attempted to create an animated film of the adventures of Nasrudan together. I say attempted because this project fell apart due to many factors such as copyright issues, embezzling funds, and many more. Williams ended up using some of the original characters he had made for the Nasrudan film, such as the Thief and the Cobbler. Williams' new masterpiece was now conceived, and its goal was to harken back to the good old days of the 24 frames per second sheer spectacle Disney animated films. In the middle of the production, however, Williams was asked to work on Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Afterwards, his scope grew and grew for The Thief and the Cobbler, wanting a more three-dimensional feel for the environments, and wanting more animators working on the project, since many of his had either retired or literally died since the beginning of the production. I mean, just imagine having to draw a whole city skyline 24 times, consistently, just for it to show up in 1 second of the film. While progress was slowly being made on the film, the Completion Bond Company was eyeing up the project, and Warner Brothers was starting to get cold feet because Disney's Aladdin was announced, and it was for release in 1992. Warner Brothers then dropped the project, leading to Completion Bond taking ownership and changing the film to have a shorter than intended runtime and have 5 songs added to it to fit in with the Disney trends at the time. Now that the botched film was quote-unquote finished, the Completion Bond Company searched for distributors, with Miramax releasing the film titled Arabian Night with a redub in America, and titled The Princess and the Cobbler in Australia and South America. Fast forward to 2006, and fans of the film had salvaged old DVD releases and storyboards of The Thief and the Cobbler, mashed them all together to create The Thief and the Cobbler, recobbled cut, the way the film was intended to be. I left out a lot of details, but that's the gist. If you want to look more into the backstory of the film, I will link some videos here. I will also link the recobbled cut, which can be found on YouTube free to watch in its entirety. The official synopsis of The Thief and the Cobbler states, a princess and a shoemaker unite to save Baghdad by restoring 3 golden balls to the tallest minaret. However, I would describe the film as a visual fever dream where many men are fighting each other for a couple of balls in order to attain power over the city of Baghdad. The people who want these balls are the titular thief, who segments the film with many Tom and Jerry-esque slapstick moments, Zigzag, who is the main antagonist of the film, and who also makes me really uncomfortable. Just the way he talks, the way he moves, his character design, I mean, he is clearly based off of a vulture, but why are you blue? And why does his feet hyperextend like that? And why does he have 6 fingers? It's gross. The other 2 men who want the balls are King Nod and the mighty One Eye, but they don't really matter to the story. The only person who really matters is Tak, baby! He's my boy! Look at my boy! Look, he's so happy! Look at him! I'm purposely explaining this film very badly because I really want you all to see it and understand why I'm saying all this. There's also this princess called Princess Yum Yum, and I mean, just the names of this film are absolutely amazing. Tak is the protagonist of the film. He is the cobbler who ends up getting imprisoned by Zigzag, then teams up with Princess Yum Yum, and eventually saves the day against the evil powers of Zigzag and the One Eye Army. There is much more to say about the movie, like how stellar the animation is, the hypnotic backgrounds, and the amazing voice acting.
The balls are gone!
But you've really got to see it to understand, so I'd strongly suggest checking out the link. So without further delay, let's get into how I animated Tak. With Tak being my favourite character, of course I'm gonna animate him. I mean, just look at his beautiful face. And anyway, I am not animating Zigzag. His massive shoulder blades, his weird extending shoes, and his gross 6 fingers with rings on each finger joint? Oh my god, how did these animators not go insane? One thing about me is that I love the beauty in limitation, getting the most bang for your buck. Tak's character design is extremely limited. His head is so round it's almost spherical. His ears and hair are covered by his hat, and his mouth is just a couple of nails. Not only is that genius, but it also forces the animators to be creative when constructing their facial expressions. Tak is also inaudible, so the animators had to be very deliberate and clear when drawing his expressions. This was the main reason as to why I was so excited to animate Tak. I wanted to go through the same thought process the animators had to go through on the movie. Now, the first step to making the animation was to map out the different poses Tak would make. Not only did I do different expressions, but I also chose to animate Tak moving around the screen in different poses. This would make the composition change constantly, adding some visual variety to the animation. I think this is a much more interesting approach than to keeping Tak in one place for the whole 20 seconds. This is called pose-to-pose animation, where you draw out each keyframe in different poses, and then go back in to draw the in-betweens to fill the gaps. The opposite to pose is straight ahead animation, where you draw each frame right after the other. As a general rule of thumb, pose is used for character animation, and straight ahead is used for effects animation. However, they can be interchanged, such as in the actual movie. Straight ahead animation tends to make characters feel uncanny and a bit off, so you can definitely see that they used straight ahead animation for Zigzag. But back to the animation. I wanted to sort of tell a story with this expression animation reel. I think adding a sense of progression is a really cool way of adding variety to your animations. This can be seen in many films. A single shot can tell a story, the same way a single scene can tell a story, the same way a whole movie can tell a story. So I decided to have Tak walk in from the right, completely disinterested with the viewer. I intentionally made this part of the animation position Tak the furthest away from the camera, further cementing that distance from the viewer. Then, he notices the camera, zooming right into his eye, showing off his curious nature. It's almost as if he's found a shiny new object and wants to inspect it closer. It zooms back out to Tak, giving the viewer a smile and a wave of the hand, until he decides to pull out one of his nails. I needed each action to be as clear as possible, so I telegraphed each part. The squash telegraphs the smile, the hand telegraphs that Tak is probably going to use it, and his eyes moving down to his nails telegraphs the fact that he's going to use his hand to pull out one of the nails. Now with only one nail instead of two, we get another curious look, and a thinking look. Tak now decides to spit out his last nail, now with more confidence, before turning embarrassed and awkwardly smiling at the viewer with his hand up. See how each action leads up to the final payoff of Tak's smile? First, he's not looking at the camera, Then he becomes a bit more interested. He spits out one nail, then he spits out the other, until he has no nails left, and at the end he acknowledges the camera once more, completely changed from the beginning. I started to go in with the in-betweens. I kept in consideration the principles of ease in and ease out, overshoot, and secondary action. Nowadays we have technology to help out with the animation process, instead of having to draw out a completely new frame on each cell. So I used the free transform tool and liquefy tool to slightly tweak an overshoot frame, with it still being consistent with the previous one. It saved me a lot of time. I used this trick for the hair and the nails specifically, to add some secondary action and life back into the animation. I used a lot of reference photos to figure out how the head would look at different angles, and I tried to move the cheeks and chin to fit each expression. Another part of the animation process that I want to highlight is character acting. There's a lot of nuances and little actions that you can put into making a character really feel believable. One of these actions is blinking. I've never really paid attention to blinking in animation a lot, but it happens more than you think. Part of what makes a good blink is that it feels natural and it doesn't stand out. So each time Tak's face moves or his expression changes wildly, I added in a blink or two. Finally, I thought about finishing touches. Did I really want to color in this animation? I decided not to because it would be extremely time consuming and wouldn't really add to the animation as a whole. The color would only be there to inform the viewer of the character, but the silhouette of Tak's hood, hair, and nails already make him pretty recognizable. Also, the color would clutter up the line work, which was the main emphasis of the animation. Did I want to clean up the animation? I decided not to. Trying to keep the lines consistent at such a high frame rate would be needlessly hard, and again would take too much time. Should I animate it on ones? As you know, the film was animated on ones, so should I replicate that style in this animation? I did a little bit. On the parts where the camera zooms in on Tak's eye, I animated on ones. Mainly because I wanted that movement specifically to feel smooth and buttery, compared to the more organic movements of Tak, which I left on twos. And with that, the animation is finished. Tell me what you think of the animation, and please go check out the link to watch the full cobbled cut of The Thief and the Cobbler. Thank you for listening to me ramble about this movie. And thank you for listening to me ramble about this animation I made. Please like and subscribe to see more illustrations and animations. But until then, thank you and goodbye.
Yeah.